Hey, 5th grade. All right, so math this week. We are going to be continuing our 5MD.1 measurement conversions unit, but now we are moving into metric measurement. So metric measurement is going to be so much easier for you, in my opinion, because customary units is all kinds of crazy unit changes, like 12 inches in a foot, and then you're going from 5,280 feet in a mile, and all kinds of different conversions that are going to be crazy for you if you don't know them by heart or have them written on your paper. But hey, metric is easy because you are dealing with units of 10. So thank goodness for metric easiness. So our mnemonic that we use for metrics is King Henry died base drinking chocolate milk. So what does that represent? If you have your base, that's going to be interchangeable for whatever units you're dealing with. So this is actually metric length that we're dealing with this week. Metric length is based on meters. So hooray for meters. So if you had 1 meter, this is what your base would be right here in the middle. So King Henry died base drinking chocolate milk just helps you to remember King represents kilo, Henry represents hecto, died represents deca, and drinking represents deci, chocolate represents centi, and milk represents milli. Now, when we go, when we read in the United States, we read from left to right. So I always remember deca has a CA and deci has CI. So deca comes first when you're reading from left to right. So that helps you know which died or drinking is which unit. So if we were to deal with the kilometers, hectometer, decameter, meter, decimeter, centimeter, and millimeter, we're going from left to right, we're going from big to small. So a kilometer, if you want to know about how much of a distance that is, that's about 4 city blocks. That's pretty big. So I like to associate it with it's kind of like a mile. That's how my brain works. Hectometer, football fans, a hectometer is about the length of a football field. A decameter is a little longer than a school bus. A meter is kind of like a yardstick. It's actually going to be 100 centimeters. So if you have your little ruler that's 12 inches, you have centimeters measurements on there also. So if you put, if you looked at the centimeters and you actually had 100 of those centimeters, that would make a meter stick. Unfortunately, my meter stick broke, so I can't show you. Decimeter is going to be 10 little centimeters, and then a centimeter, this is if you were looking at the ruler, this from 0 to 1 is little centimeters, and then teeny little tick mark would be our millimeters. Very, very small units of length. So 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters, 1 decimeter equals 10 centimeters, 1 meter equals 10 decimeters, 1 decameter equals 10 meters, and 1 hectometer equals 100 meters, and 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. So if you look here, this will kind of give you those conversions. So if we have a meter that represents 1, a decimeter would be 1/10 of that meter, a centimeter would be 1/100th of that meter, and a millimeter would be 1,000th of that meter. If you were looking at decameters, there would be 10 to 1. Hectometers would be 100 to 1, and then kilometers would be 1,000 to 1. So there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer, or there are 100 meters in a hectometer. So that kind of helps you to make that association in your head, what that would be. Now, if you're going from the small units to the left, if you're going in this direction, you are getting 10 times bigger. So you're really multiplying by 10 when you go from millimeters to centimeters. You're timesing by 10. When you go from centimeters to decimeters, you're timesing by 10. When you go from decimeters to meters, you're timesing by 10, and so on. So when you go to the left, when you're going from those smaller units and you go to the left, you're actually getting 10 times bigger. And we talked about this when we did patterns in place value, when we multiplied or divided by units of 10, by tens, hundreds, and thousands. And if you're going from a larger kilometers and you're moving to hectometers, you're actually getting 10 times smaller. So you're dividing by units of 10. And if you're going from hectometers to decameters, you're actually getting smaller and dividing by 10. So you can actually use this knowledge of multiplication or division of units of 10 to help to simplify this process. And again, you can always go back to the good old big to small times them all, S to B, divide with me, to help you to know if you're going to have to multiply or divide. That's a nice golden one there for you. So if we go over here, can you see this good? So we have 5MD.1 measurement convergence metric length, and here's some example problems of how you would solve for this. So if the question asks how many centimeters are in 9 6/10 meters, so you can do this two ways. You can use big to small times them all, or you can use King Henry Dyed base to help you to solve. So if I was to go with big to small times them all, I would say, okay, what is my known? I have 9 6/10 meters. I'm videotaping 9 6/10 meters, and I ask myself, well, how many centimeters is that? Well, centimeters is smaller than meters, and meters is big. So if I'm going big to small, I'm going to times them all. I'm going to multiply. So I know by my little chart here, if I had a 1 here, there would be 100 centimeters in our base units of meters. So big to small times them all, I would just have to take 9.6 and times that by 100. And if I remember my patterns and place value, I know that when I multiply, it's like shifting the decimal over to the right, how many zeros you have. So I take 9.6 and go shift. That would give me 960 centimeters. Or you can just work it out. Takes a long time, but that's okay. You can do it that way too. So that's an example of going from big to small. Or I can just say, okay, I have 9.6 meters. I know that that is 1, 2 places over, and you can just go 1, 2, add that 0, and then you're done. How many kilometers are in 15,000 meters? How many kilometers are in 15,000 meters? So kilometers are actually going to be my big unit, and meters is my small unit. So you ask yourself 15,000 meters equals how many kilometers? So I need going from small to big this time. So S to B, we're going to divide with me. There are 1,000 meters in a kilometer. How do I know that? Well, we know that if this was a 1, that we're going over 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 3. And we know that there are, takes 1,000 kilometers to make 1 meter. So we were going to go 15,000 meters divided by our conversion unit of 1,000. And because we're going S to B, we're dividing. So 15,000 divided by 1,000 is going to give you 15 kilometers. So the strategy that works best for you is A-okay with me. Just make sure you're showing your work so I know what you're doing. And I hope that helps to clarify things. Remember, use the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is our friend. It gives you step-by-step instruction with that guided practice so you can actually learn the process and the steps in order to solve. So, and if some of you, I know your brain works a totally different way, and if it does, that's fine by me. Just make sure you show your work so I can know what you're thinking, so I can clarify any misunderstandings in case there's an error. All right, 5th grade. I'll talk to you soon. Until next time, see you later.